Thank you guys for joining the live today. Really appreciate it. So basically, I wanted to start this show, Do You Boo, because I feel like my entire life, one of the main things people have said to me is, I love how authentically you are. I love how you're yourself. And I never really understood that because, I've only ever known how to be myself. And as I got older, I realized that a lot of people have this issue where they aren't able to, tap into being authentically them in the world. And so I realized during the pandemic that I wanted to start a show highlighting other people that I feel like are living in their authentic truth and being true to their authentic selves, and hopefully inspiring you guys to also live in your authentic truth if you are not already doing that. Thank you, Roxana. So without further ado, I'm going to bring on our first guest, Miss Rotana. She's incredible. I will let her tell you her story. But basically, I thought that she was the perfect person for our first episode. Her story, her journey, the way she expresses herself. I knew that when I did this, she was going to be my first guest. And Rotana and I met 2 years ago. I was shadowing another badass woman, the director Laura Murphy, on the show Adam Knows Everything. And Rotana was playing a singer, which she is, in the show. And she just had such a magnetic energy. She was so bubbly and beautiful vibes, but still you could see her soul when you look at her. And I was immediately captivated by her. And here we are 2 years later. So without further ado, let me bring Rotana in.
I was like,
how are you, queen?
Frame the face.
I know,
good,
right?
Habibti. Habibti means my love in Arabic.
Yes. So how are you doing? How was your pandemic? Have you learned anything in 2020? Crazy year.
Those are massive questions. First of all, thank you so much. I'm so honored that I'm your first guest. What a fucking treat. I am such a fan of yours, and I totally forgot how we met until before this. I was like, wait, how did Roxana and I meet? And I remembered because I've gotten lost in just your passion and conviction. And
Thank you.
yeah, your presence in the world is super fragrant, even though we can't smell each other right now 'cause
That's so beautiful.
COVID.
I smell you through the screen, baby.
Thank you.
Yes.
I'm good. Uh, I'm going through such a transformational time, which is a gift and really difficult at times. But I'm here for it, and it's what I asked for.
I feel that.
The music video that I put out, Sin Again. I have a song called Sin Again for all of Roxana's followers.
I was playing it in the waiting room, actually.
I know, I heard it.
I love the song, by the way. It's stuck in my head. The video is incredible.
Thank you.
Really captivating.
Yeah, so for those of you that haven't seen the video, go watch it. It's called Sin Again. But yeah, that song with, having lips on my tits and finally being with my body in that way was really it was really upsetting to a lot of people. It was really violating to a lot of people in my culture. It was a disruption.
Right.
And so, yeah, I've been moving through that storm. But also I've been prepping for this, I would say my whole life, but really for the last 4 years. Understanding what could happen when I come out.
Okay, so how old were you 4 years ago?
Oh my God, I'm 31 right now.
Okay.
So
your Saturn return. Do you know what a Saturn return is?
Yeah, dude.
So I'm going through it right now too. I'm 28. So your Saturn return is when you started being like, you know what? Fuck this shit. I'm gonna be me. And if you don't like it, sorry, but I gotta do what I gotta do.
Yeah. And sometimes the energy isn't even fuck this shit. I have to be me. I'm gonna do it. Sometimes you're not that convicted. But I really, really, truly believe that, whether you believe in God or a higher power, whatever it is, you're here to learn lessons, and you're here to do I believe that there's some fucking weird ass soul contract that we sign
I was literally thinking in my head, I was like, I'm gonna let her finish, but soul contract.
before we come
Yes.
here, right? And so
100%.
as you approach your Saturn return, whether you have the ability to be like, I'm gonna start coming into myself, whether you like it or not, shit's gonna start to make you come into yourself. So for
Exactly.
me, because coming into myself really meant releasing, and it meant the death of a lot of people, places, and things back home, and like with my religion,
Spiritually or
everything, like
both.
actual people, actual
Right.
family, actual things. No, I don't mean actual death. I meant
Spirit. Yeah, exactly.
the spirit. Sorry.
Yes.
Yes. That these relationships will end. My ability to feel like comfortable potentially back home and culturally will end. And so I was really gripping onto those things, terrified of change. And then the universe, God, whatever, is like, okay, all right, we'll handle it. And this video of me, reading the Quran, which is the holy book, which I always do that to open my shows, because it's how, like, I ground in spirituality before I open my shows, because my shows are spiritual. They are ceremony. And that fucking video went viral in the worst way. And it
Sin again?
No. This video of me performing at a live
Got
film
it.
festival. It's a festival. Okay. I have a one-woman show that I do.
Right.
Where I sing and do spoken word and dance. And I opened that show with reading scripture from the Holy Book, which technically you're not allowed to do as a woman. You shouldn't be reciting scripture out loud. You shouldn't be dressed the way that I was dressed. You should not have, Quran and music in the same breath. Right. Which I didn't, but like it was in the same, I opened my show with that.
So question, because I'm Jewish, and Jewish women, like Hasidic women, they're not allowed to sing. Are Muslim women allowed to sing?
Islam, there's nowhere in Islam that says that you're not allowed to sing. So I really don't, like, I really want to protect like the divinity and the purity of Islam. It's the cultural interpretations of it. So I'm from Saudi Arabia.
Yeah, let's backtrack and tell the audience like your story, your everything.
So I'm from Saudi Arabia. I was born and raised there. Never in a million years did I even think it was possible to come to America and sing. Like, that wasn't even an option, because when I grew up in Saudi Arabia, absolutely, women were not allowed to sing in public. In fact, they would teach us at school. I went to Saudi schools, which were very religious. Sawt al-mar'a awra, which means the musical quality of a woman's voice is the equivalent of kind of your genitals, and they need to be covered. And so even just speaking musically, that was seen as you're going around and being a seductress, and that's dangerous. And so no, it never occurred to me, even though I listened to fucking TLC and Brandy and Christina Aguilera, like it was all there. But no, I never ever thought that it was even in the realm of possibility for me to do this. Now, Saudi Arabia, we had our first like concert about a year and a half or 2 years ago. The first time that we started to play music in public spaces.
Wow. So there were no concerts before.
There were no concerts. You could have like a private wedding and have a singer, but it's private and it's not in public. But absolutely, there were no concerts at all.
Who was the first person to perform in Saudi?
That's such a good question. I think it was like a fucking country singer, and I think that Trump came to Saudi, and I think it was like, I don't even know.
Sounds like an oil deal or something.
It was so bad. I was like, really? This is how we're gonna start this? I can't remember. I love country music, but it was just like the I think it was like Keith Urban or some shit. I don't know.
Okay.
But since then, I mean, Mariah Carey has come in, and like, Tiesto and Peggy Goo, and like everyone's come there now.
Right.
And
they opened the borders.
They opened the borders. It's still like there's so much change that's happening in Saudi Arabia. Women can drive as of, I think, a couple or a few years
Yeah,
ago.
I wanted to talk about that as well.
We can talk about that. What did you want to ask me about that?
Well, basically, I mean, I guess like growing up, you know, do you know how to drive?
Yes.
Okay. And I guess growing up, did you ever find that like, I guess, did you find it strange, or like, what was like your awakening of like, hey, you know, I don't feel like women are getting the same, being put on the same pedestal, or like, you know, aren't being given the same opportunities. I can't even drive a car. I can't sing. I
Right.
can't express myself. Like, did you ever find that weird growing up? And then like when it was allowed, like, did any women in your family, how did they react to it? You know?
That's such a great question, and I think, sorry, I will get to it, but just what you said about the pedestal is so interesting because in Saudi Arabia and the way that Islam is practiced there, it's really interesting because women are so revered. Like women are fucking queens in Saudi. The way that women, you are so safe as a woman. You could be walking on the street at any hour of the day, like, and you are safe. There is a safety back home in the Middle East and especially in Saudi Arabia that is not present here. Um, you are
Like, there's no
always
cat calling
there's
in the
no.
streets of Saudi.
I mean, like they'll do it, but like we had like growing up, there was religious police like running around in cars. So like if you fucked around and the religious police caught you, like it was not like shit was gonna go down. So the stakes are high, right?
What does that mean, the religious police?
So literally, it was like it's a group, it's an entity that is funded by the government of, you know, in like sheikhs or not even sheikhs, but like religious men that are sort of like at a priest level. They're more enlightened, but they're not. And they have cars and they just run around the city. And at the time, like when I was growing up, you weren't allowed to be, everything was segregated. So there was a men's section and then a women's section, and you weren't allowed to be out and about or hanging out. Zada's laughing. You weren't allowed to be hanging or being or with somebody that wasn't your male guardian. So your male guardian means like not your father or your uncle or your brother, basically somebody that's related to you that you can't technically marry. You weren't
Mhm.
allowed to be out with just like your guy friend or a boyfriend. None of that was allowed. So they just drove around, and if they caught you, you'd get in trouble.
Right.
So that's what the religious police were.
Okay.
But what I wanted to say is that it's so interesting because women are really treated like queens. They're so respected. They're so revered, and at the same time, and I think I see this everywhere. It's like patriarchy and men really love to like they love women to be um powerful, but when we are truly empowered and say, okay, well, give me my rights, I want to move this way, my body wants to move this way actually, and it's not for you, that's when they're like, oh, no, 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 like you can't do that.
That
So that
wasn't
was
what I
very,
meant by power.
that was not what I meant by power.
Right.
Don't be empowered. Just like look really beautiful and say that that you have power, but don't move with it. Don't
Hmm.
ask for change. Don't ask for, what you're worth. So I would say I realized very early on that shit wasn't right in terms of the equality of men and women in Saudi Arabia. And I will also say that um, it wasn't until really I moved here that I started to feel the feelings of anger because I loved my life in Saudi Arabia. I really, really did. I was protected. I was secure. I got my value like from the inside. High school was a really, for the most part, like healthy experience for me.
Did you go to an English school?
No, I went to a Saudi school.
Because you have no accent whatsoever in English.
I have no accent whatsoever. I mean, a lot of Saudis don't because we watch
Right.
Western media.
Hmm. So
Also,
media is not blocked. Western media is not blocked there.
no, it's and no. it's evolved. When I was growing up, we had one channel called America Plus, and that's where you would watch like American television.
Right.
So like a lot of sex scenes were blocked. Like yes, that stuff was blocked, but no, now it's free reign. Like Saudi girls watch everything that we watch here. Um, I forgot what I was saying, which means it wasn't that important.
Well, I have lots of other prompts, so that's fine. We have a question though. What was the first act of defiance when you arrived in America?
Well, okay, I want to say that I don't like the word defiance because
Okay.
I think a lot of times people think that I'm doing this as like a fuck you to Saudi Arabia or to my culture, to Islam. And it's so not what I'm doing. I really, really want to reframe that like none of this is an act of defiance. This is simply me being myself. And that is just inherently defiant to
Yep.
you. You are experiencing that as me defying it. But you have to take ownership for the fact that you are seeing this as me, causing trouble or being a rebel. I'm like, I'm just trying to listen to the music that's happening. I'm just trying to give it, movement and breath and sound.
I
So
feel that 100%.
yeah, I mean, I'm sure that so deeply. And I feel like, I heard you saying as you were introducing this that you from when you were young, people said like you are so yourself. And I can imagine that that wasn't like an easy process all the time. And I can imagine that a lot of people put names on it of, I don't know, defiance, rebellion, pretentiousness. Like, has that ever been your
Weird,
experience?
hipster, like, all these like different things. And I'm just like, I'm just being myself, man. I don't think I'm a hipster at all, but okay. You know what I mean? Like these
Right.
are blue light glasses right now because I'm trying to
Yeah.
not strain my eyes,
Yeah.
but like, yeah, it was just such an interesting thing for me because I said it earlier too. I just feel like I don't know how people don't live in like how they don't listen to their heart song. You know what I mean? Like, and I know it's obviously very hard to listen to your heart song, but it's harder for me, at least it's harder to not listen to it. And I also realized that very early on where I was like, but I don't want to do what the crowd is doing. That's not what my soul is telling me to do, you know?
Right. Right.
Um, so
Yeah.
I guess you said earlier that you never imagined you'd be in America doing this. So how old were you when you moved here and why did you move here? And like,
Yeah, I graduated from college and then I started working at an oil company in Saudi Arabia.
okay.
Typical. And I loved it though. Like I fucking loved it. I really,
Okay.
really loved it. It's called Saudi Aramco. It's a big oil company, and it used to be an American and a Saudi company, and it started in 1933. Anyways, the reason that I mention this is because I actually grew up in this gated city that they nicknamed Little America that Saudi Aramco built, which is also part of the reason that I have an American accent, is because I grew up in this gated city where all of the expats lived and none
Okay.
of the rules of Saudi Arabia applied there. So like women could drive, there was Girl Scouts, and we had a movie theater,
And there
and
were
it
a
was
lot of Americans there,
a
like
lot of
expats.
Americans,
Right. Okay.
a lot of Americans, Indians, Filipinos, just but like yes, lots of Americans. And so when I graduated, I went back and worked for that company and I absolutely loved it. And I was working in their international media relations department. So I liaisoned um, all of the international media and what was happening there. And I do want to say this because I think that a lot of times people are like, what the fuck is my purpose? Like, what am I doing? And it's really, and we'll probably get to this because it's all I ever want to talk about. But I just want to say to like, the things that make you come alive, they are always with you no matter what you're doing. So when I was at this oil company, I would give these presentations to all sorts of people. And I would murder these presentations. I made them stories. I felt like I was like on a stage and I don't know, I made oil, like the story of oil, like super emotional. And I just look back at it now and I'm like, oh, bitch, you were doing that then. Like you were this person then. And so I just like want people to know that what makes you come alive, and like your gift is always with you. You just need to pay attention.
You just need to tap in
You just need to tap in and pay
and
attention.
listen to your heart song.
Listen to your heart song.
Yeah.
And so, but okay, so I was loving my job, but something was missing, and I started to fall into like a really deep depression. And it's crazy that you can be deeply depressed while making a lot of money and being really satisfied with your job and getting a lot of reward.
Right.
And I had it was the first time that I heard an inner voice that was like, you need to fuck off. So I went to India for 3 months.
How old
And
were you?
I was at that point 24.
Okay.
I was around 24. I went to India, and for the first time in my life, I wasn't talking to my mom or my dad or my friends or anybody about like, oh, what do you think about this, and what should I do about this? Because I was always that's what religion, the brainwashing of the dogma of religion does to you and culture. It makes you completely dismiss your inner voice. So I was in India for 3 months.
Question: had you traveled before you went to India?
Yeah, I traveled a lot.
Okay.
Yeah, I was really, really lucky. My dad made sure that, like, my dad was just always like, you need to understand, like, that this world is so big and there's so much going on. So I'm always so grateful. My father and my mother. So yeah, I had
Same.
traveled a bunch. Yeah, I traveled a bunch, but never spent that much time alone ever. Like 3 months was fucking nuts. And it was silent. Like I was at a yoga retreat.
For 3 months?
And yeah, yeah.
Wow.
I mean, I wasn't silent the whole time, but I went to this yoga retreat,
Oh,
which I hated the yoga that was going on there. And so I was just like, well, I'm here now.
what kind of yoga was it?
It was more of an Ayurvedic retreat that had a lot of yoga.
Right.
Do you know what Ayurveda is?
Mm-hmm. But tell our viewers.
Ayurveda is like one of the most ancient forms of medicine. It comes from India, and it's really just like it's based in diet and herbs and meditation, and they have all these different like massage and oil treatments. It's holistic healing, and it was such a it was a terrible retreat.
Was
But
it that holistic of a
it
healing for
wasn't,
you?
honestly, no. But what was holistic was the silence. Because, and I say this all the time, when you shut out the noise outside, the inside gets really fucking loud. And the noise got really loud inside, and the noise was, I don't know if I believe in God the way that I've been told to believe in God. I don't,
Wow.
I'm, I don't think my sexuality is bad. Holy fuck, I want to sing. What the fuck is going on? Everything just started to come to the surface. And I was like, oh I don't know who I am. And with all of that was like, you got to go. You got to go to the States. You got to go sing. I'd never sang a song in my life, never written a song in my life.
Wow.
I had sung, sorry, but I'd never had any training.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it was just instinct.
So, had you had moments like that growing up, like before it came like crashing like a tsunami? Like, were there like little tidal waves?
Yeah, I mean, I think that your gift is always with you. Like I had a wild childhood at moments, and I would go to this soccer field across the street from us, from our house in Little America, and I would sing to a fake audience. And I thought that my life, and I would like narrate my life as though it was a movie. I'd be like, guys, don't worry, like Ro's gonna be great, and then I just like break out into song, right? And so, but no, I never ever had these moments of like, oh, you're gonna go and be a performer. And it didn't hit me like a tidal wave, by the way. I got depressed, went to India, and then I was like, oh my God, who am I? What? I think I want to sing. And then I went back to work, and I was like, what the fuck was that? I went back to work, and then for a year, it was just like it was like a fucking mosquito. And to
Right.
me, I'm always like, what is my intuition? And I still can't fully answer that. But I know that in those moments, it was just like a thing that wouldn't go away. I couldn't stop feeling this feeling of, you gotta go, you gotta go, you gotta go, you gotta go. And then I was like, fine, I'll go.
And had you been to the States before?
Yeah, yeah. My parents love California. So I actually lived, I'm like in a full circle moment. I live in Pasadena now. And
Okay.
I lived in Pasadena for 2 years between the ages of 4 and 6. My parents were here on a business trip.
Okay.
So yeah, I had been here before, but I went to college in the States,
Where did you
but
go to school?
in Boston,
Okay.
at Simmons College. It's this all girls school. But I never interacted. I had been here a bunch, but I had never interacted with the US the way I interacted with it when I moved here.
Right.
Because I was still very Saudi, very religious, very like closed-minded. And
Did
we
you wear a
lived,
hijab?
no, I, I wanted to wear a hijab because I was religious in high school. I was religious. I still consider myself to be religious, but not in a dogmatic way. But I remember
Right.
telling my dad when I was like in ninth grade, I was like, I want to cover my hair. He was like, no, like wait for a year. If you still want to cover your hair, you can.
So you didn't grow up in a very religious family then?
I did. I did. But my dad, like my mother is very religious. All my aunts and uncles are very religious. I did. But they, my parents are amazing. They're also liberal, but they are religious. My mother's more religious than my father, but I do. I come from a very religious background. All like my aunts, uncles, it's very ingrained in us. Which is why Sin Again was such a
Right.
ruckus.
Such a sin.
Such a sin.
Yeah.
Thank you.
How
That's
how
the
did they
word.
feel about, like, how did your mother's side, or like your aunts and everything, how did they feel about your father not wanting you to wear a hijab?
They weren't even a part of the conversation. Like I
Did
didn't
they like look
they
at you and be like, why aren't you covering your head? Or no?
No, because my dad has always created a really incredible boundary of like this is my family. This is my daughter. My both of my parents have always created that safety for me. Um that's what I mean when I say like my parents are liberal in these kinds of ways where my dad was and my mom were like, this is thank you very much. This is us.
Mm-hmm.
Um yeah. But it's so complicated. Like it's so complicated because at the end of the day, like you're not dealing with religion. This is tribal law. This is cultural bondage. This is shit that like has been going on for centuries. And it didn't start with me or my mother or my father or our grandparents. Like it didn't come out of a vacuum.
Right.
And there's so much, yeah, it's
So
tough.
are both are both sides of your family from like Saudi as far back as you know?
No, so okay, no. So my mother, my oh, my grandmother, my mother's mother is
I think I was asking you if like you had any little if there were any
yes,
specific moments, I guess, from childhood or your teenage years or anything where like you felt
yeah,
a
yeah. Well, that's it. Okay, so no, like I didn't. I really my these moments that I was like, oh, I love singing. I love sharing vibration from my voice with people. Was mostly in the soccer fields across the street from my house. Like I said, I'd get like really overwhelmed, and I would go and sing there. At school, I sang for my friends, and that was fun too. But it was again, it was never even in the realm of dreams that I could go and pursue this. That just wasn't even. And so I think, at least for people listening, it's important for me to say that, like, it's not always going to feel like this big inspiration that's coming down from the gods. Like, sometimes it's just an idea that keeps showing up, you know? And for me, that's literally all it was. I went to India. I was like, I think I want to sing. Whoa, cool. Went back to Saudi. And for a whole year, I was like, you got to go. You got to go. You got to go. You got to go. So, I mean, I'm literally on a quest to clarify what intuition is and feels like. Um, because I think that when we're operating from our intuition and from like our orgasmic fuck yes, which I learned that phrase from so many different amazing women, Adrienne Marie Brown, Layla Martin, Sonia Renee Taylor. Your intuition is the same thing as your orgasmic fuck yes. When you're operating from that, like you're just always on the path.
Yep. If it's not a
Um,
fuck yes, it's a no.
if it's not a fuck yes, it's a no. And so how do you, but sometimes your intuition is like, sometimes your intuition is not your intuition. Sometimes your intuition is your ego.
Yep.
Sometimes your intuition is your fear. So, or what you think is your intuition is those things. So I'm like really trying to crystallize those things.
So
Um,
how do you like know who's speaking to you? Like, is it your ego? Is it your intuition? How do you know who's talking to you?
yeah, I think for me, what I've learned is that I can't like demand from myself to know immediately. What I can do is really practice. So I talk about this book all the time. It's called Pleasure Activism by Adrienne Marie Brown. And I'll get into, I guess I'll just talk about it now. Pleasure active, like there's no way that I'll just talk about it now.
Let's go.
This book changed my fucking life. It'll change anybody's life that reads it. But it is pleasure activism is saying it is reframing pleasure from something that is selfish and frivolous and something that is not of service to something that is absolutely necessary and vital and nutritious that we need. And it's a prayer. And it's how we serve our communities. It's the thing um, that keeps us connected to each other and the divine. And so pleasure activism is all about reframing pleasure and understanding that. And also, like when you say the word pleasure, a lot of people go like, oh my God, like sex. It's not just that. Yes, pleasure can be sexual, but pleasure can also be looking at your friend's face and being like, God, I love you so fucking much. Pleasure can be uplifting, uplifting each other as women. Um, and the idea of pleasure is we fill our cups up so that we can overflow and give to our community. And so pleasure activism is saying like for centuries we have been doing this thing where it's like to be a good person you must like negate yourself and shut yourself down and suffer and like sacrifice, and that's what a good person is. And Adrienne Marie Brown and so many others are saying hold on, that causes burnout. That is the essence of suppression. We are not sustainable when we are in that state. And so I started to like, I really am, I'm like sinking my being into this book. And so one of the things that I do when I'm trying to figure out, is this my intuition? Is I wait and then I go to the thing that I'm thinking about, like let's say, oh, should I do this live show? And I'll like, okay, let's either close our eyes and feel into what the live show feels like or actually go for a rehearsal. And can I pay attention to the sensations in my body when I'm doing that? Do I feel expansive? Do I feel more interconnected to people? Do I have more patience? Like, pay attention to who the fuck you are when you're doing these things. And I've started to train that muscle of like, oh, the things that make me feel fully alive also make me feel more connected to God, also make me feel patient, also make me feel expansive, also make me feel like I have the energy to go and help this person and that person and that person. And the things that don't make me contracted. I'm impatient. I don't have time to do that. I'm so I don't have time to do that. So that's what I would say. So I don't fucking know what intuition is. I don't. I try my best, but I know what makes me feel expanded and what makes me feel contracted.
And knowing that is your intuition speaking to
Right.
you.
Yes.
Exactly. I think that's so beautiful. Yeah, like I never really connected with the idea in Buddhism. I look at religion as a buffet. So like I didn't really grow up that religious. And so, I take little things from different religions. I identify as like a Hindu primarily because I love Hinduism and a lot of like Hindu practices and beliefs. But obviously I'm also still very culturally and spiritually Jewish. But like looking into Buddhism, one thing that I didn't like about Buddhism was how they practice not having desire,
Not
and
having to say that again?
having desire.
Right.
And that to me was like the biggest turnoff of Buddhism for me personally, because I'm like, desire is life, like pleasure activating pleasure, like I'm all about that. Do you know your life path number?
No.
Okay, I'll
No, I don't.
tell you your life path number now, and maybe start doing it. My life path number is a 5. I believe in life path numbers almost more than I believe in astrology, because life path numbers are like, my life path number is a 5, which means that like I'm the sensual freedom seeker. And that is the most me thing ever. Like, it's like pretty much like people that are 5s, like they need to feel the variety of life, and you know, they need to taste everything and experience everything they can while on earth, whatever. So when I read that, I was like, that makes a lot of sense for me. Anyways,
Yeah.
birthday.
My birthday is September 1st.
What year?
That's it. Oh, we're gonna do this. We're doing this
Yeah, I'm
right
gonna give you
now.
your
I
life path
love
number right now, baby girl. What did you
September
think it
1st.
was?
September 1st, 1988. Yay, I'm so excited. My
9
friend
plus.
Anna, sorry, go ahead.
No. What were you saying?
My friend Annabelle Blythe is like a wizard at human design. And so
I
she
just got
did,
into human design.
I'm gonna connect y'all. She's a little wizard and she's so fucking good at it. She's been studying it for a few years now. And I just know that I'm a manifester, but beyond that, I don't know anything.
Your life path 9. So the way you get your life path is you add up all the numbers of your birthday. So it's like 9 plus 1 plus 1 plus 9 plus 8 plus 8.
Okay.
Let me verify my math is correct. 16, 26, 36. Yeah, and then so then it's like 36, and then 3 plus 6 equals 9. So I'm not that in tune with what 9s mean, but I do have my computer right
Also, we
here.
have 9 people watching right now.
Oh my God. Hey Cal, what's up? I got 28, which I guess means probably what the whole thing is.
Which probably just means that my Instagram's fucked up. Thank you.
Yeah, it's because a lot of these people I think are you. Okay, the charismatic and creative humanitarian.
Oh,
Is what
wow.
the
Okay.
9 life path is.
Okay.
So are you ready for this, baby girl?
I'm so ready.
The 9 life path is the most evolved in numerology and has one of the strongest vibrations because it contains the qualities of all the other numbers. So basically, 9 is like the last. After 9, like your life path can't be 10. Your life path would just be 1, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So if your belief system supports the idea of reincarnation, you might be relieved to know that the 9 vibration is that of a wise old soul returning to wrap things up. If you don't believe in reincarnation, you'll still be relieved to know that your life is meant to be expansive. It literally says that word. And spiritually challenging.
Oh, girl!
Yours is truly a lifetime to focus fully and completely on letting go and surrendering and on gaining and acting upon higher spiritual principles, however you define them. You have a strong inclination to follow something you believe in, and you'll pursue this with great ambition and drive. You have an authentic regard for humanity, so your goals usually involve serving others in some way. Wow. Are you ready for me to dig even deeper?
I'm ready. I mean, yes, please go ahead.
Oh, Antonella. I love numerology too. So, one of the characteristics of your 9 life path is that you often have issues with your original family. You may have felt unloved or abandoned as a child, or perhaps responsible for your parents. You often feel out of place as though you don't really belong. It's a joke.
I love your pauses. I love your.
It's a joke though. Like, it's so crazy. In any event, your attachment to your original family is hard to give up. Which, you know.
It's so hard. It's impossible. I will never give it up.
Exactly,
But,
of course.
yeah.
But
it's fucking complicated as fuck.
So you must find a way to maintain healthy personal boundaries with your family and find the courage to leave unhealthy dynamics behind. You're all about transformation and letting go, so extracting yourself from an unhealthy sense of family identity is part of your plan. This isn't to say goodbye to your family and never see them. This means that you define yourself for who you are and allow your family members to do the same.
Wow.
This is crazy. That, like, just a little bit more. You're at your best when you engage your spiritual side and listen to your intuitive inner voice, which is crystal clear when you remove your mental clutter.
It's like, we should have just read this. Why'd you need to interview me?
we just got Rotana down in a nutshell.
Oh, that's so
Crazy.
Good. Wow. Yeah.
Crazy.
It's true. And I wanted to say, because I think maybe you'd resonate this, like, On the topic of boundaries, the most beautiful people that I learned from is a person called Prentice Hemphill. And they have this quote that went viral, which is, a boundary is the distance at which I can love myself and you simultaneously. A boundary is the distance at which I can love myself and you simultaneously. And that was so profound to me, because I think that so many times when we talk about boundaries, we're always like, I had to set a boundary, and it's like someone did something wrong, or it's their fault, or it's my fault. When in reality, sometimes setting a boundary is genuinely just logistics, just who you are in space and time right now, and who I am at space and time right now. I need this amount of distance so that I can be in fully intact, and you can be fully intact. I just wanted to share that. I know it's kind of
No,
off topic, but
I literally grew up with no boundaries whatsoever, and I'm tapping into my boundaries now.
yeah,
And that is so true. Like, even
it's
like,
so
you know,
true.
my friends that, like, you know, I remember the first few friends I had that put boundaries with me. You know, and at
Mm-hmm.
first I didn't understand them. I was like,
Mm-hmm.
what do you mean? You know?
Mm-hmm.
And now I understand it on such a different level, because it's like, wow, like, yeah, we're, as human beings, we're allowed to say, hey, we don't like that. Or like, you
Yes.
know, I don't really want to do that. But it doesn't
Right.
mean that, you know, we don't love that person. You know, like, I respect your boundaries and you respect mine, and that's what we're going to love each other. I love that quote. Thank you for that.
You're so welcome. Yeah, and the person's name is their name is Prentice Hemphill, and I think that's amazing, because I think that's one of the biggest issues, is that we don't know how to receive boundaries. We receive them as rejection, and it's like, they're not rejecting you. And like, I've experienced it too. We all have. It's a really it's like some Jedi shit to just receive a boundary and be like, oh, I respect that. Like,
Right, of course.
you can have your feelings.
It's
But
hard to give boundaries too.
oh, it's so hard. There's
That's
fear of
what
it.
I'm struggling with right now. Like,
There's fear of abandonment. But the truth is that, like, I struggle with it too, and I'm in the process of setting some boundaries as well. But like, if the people on the receiving end cannot receive your boundary, then like, that's going to be a really difficult and toxic relationship to be in. And it's
1000%.
you just gotta trust that they'll come around, and if they don't, you can still love them. Like, the loving never has to stop,
Yep.
you
A
know?
word. I love it.
Yeah.
Um, Antonella, I'm a life path 5. We were talking about that before. I'm just answering the questions in the comments.
Yeah.
And unique luxury. I guess a lot of people still want to hear about religion. He's asking what your religion is. Da, 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 da. So, we can go back to that a little bit. I guess my question in terms of going back to that is, when did you first like come into terms with your sexuality and like being liberated as, like, you know, a free woman? And how did your
Yeah.
family reciprocate that? Was there any like friction between you and your family, and how did you navigate through that friction?
Right. I mean, I've been tapped into my sexual energy since I was like 6. Like,
Yeah, same.
like, we all have. But like,
Right.
I've just like, I am an inherently, like, I'm a very erotic person. But I remember even being like 11 and 12, and like understanding, not a, definitely didn't understand, but feeling these moments of connection with God as I was being sexual, right? And like, I moved my body in a very sexual way, and I would play music, and I would like go into this trance, and I would be like, what the fuck is going on here? Like, I have no idea what's happening. And I am so glad that I never told anybody about it, because if I told anybody about it, I would adopt a lot of shame. But it was one of those things. Like, I know I hear about a lot of religious people saying, like, I grew up with so much shame because of masturbating. And like, yes, I grew up in the most religious environment, and they told us that all this stuff was really bad. But the good thing about Saudi schools is that it's so religious that we don't even really talk about that shit. Like, you don't even mention it. So I had the freedom of experiencing these things privately. And it just, like, it got more and more powerful the older I got. But but it was completely a secret. And yeah, like, I went privately, I never had any shame. The
That was you
second
setting a boundary for yourself.
That was me setting up, but like, I carried and still carry in my body so much shame and terror and guilt and disgust for expressing myself the way that I do. But I can tell you that it's gone from like 180 to now we're like sitting at like a cool 30. And it's taken me years of so much um, therapy and mushrooms and medicine and journaling and solitude and and the only and I like you're like when did that moment come that you started embracing yourself? When I put out Sin Again. Sin Again is the first
That
time
was
that I've
very recent.
yeah, it took me that long.
Congratulations, baby.
Thank you, my love. I've been presenting a very diluted version of myself my whole life. And yeah, I mean, honestly, without getting into too much detail, because it just like, I don't feel that this space is like sacred enough. Not that you're not sacred enough, but like Instagram is sacred
Of
enough to
course.
talk about the details of it. But like it's been extremely destructive in my life. There's so many relationships and things that have they're gone, they're tarnished. People are angry, like shit's going down. But not but and I have a song called Necessary Death. And, you know, the lyrics go like, a necessary death. I'm lying down for it. I'm steady. The world is upside down. Where did it go? Gravity. I'm steady. Because it's like, you have to allow death to happen in order for you to come into who you are. You can, or
100%.
you can cling on really, really hard to people, places, and things, which I did, and then you can, and then I got like, you know, I became dependent on weed, and I was constantly disassociating, and I was in relationships that didn't reflect my worth, and it was all to avoid the fact that I have been abandoning myself.
Wow.
You know?
Well, I'm happy that you have found yourself again.
Thanks. I'm still finding myself, but it's a
Every
journey,
day.
but every
The
day,
journey.
but I like you're part of my coming out party.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
Yes, baby. You are too, because like this show for me, like I've been thinking about this for so long. And like in the beginning of the year, I love how spiritual we've been getting in this entire conversation. In the
We're
beginning of
witches.
yes, I love.
Yeah.
In the beginning of the year, I went to a Kundalini yoga class, and have you done Kundalini?
I have not practiced it like extensively, but I've gone to a few classes, yes. Like I'm
So
familiar with it.
when you do Kundalini, like pretty much it's an alignment of the chakras, right? And you always have a chakra that will vibrate. I went with two girls. Each one of us had a different chakra point that vibrated. For the first time ever, my throat chakra was just like ba 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 ba. Like I couldn't believe it, and I was like, "Wow, my voice needs to get out there." Like, you know, maybe I'm creating art, but the art I'm creating is like not of my like. Yeah, okay, it's a part of me, but it's not like what I have to say to the world, you know. And like this is my coming out party because now I feel like, you know, like I was very nervous to create this show, you know.
I'm so
And
proud of
I was
you.
just like, how long ago did I ask you to be a guest? Like months ago, no?
Months ago. But my love, like months is like really not that long
Of course.
like in the grand scheme of things, and I'm so proud of you.
Thank
And I
you.
want to say, like, I remember, I can't remember when this was, but I think it was I don't know when it was, but you posted this thing, and I was like, this girl, this woman is like, she's just gonna go so far. Because you had posted this thing being like, you're like, I'm sick of essentially waiting for artists to adopt your ideas in order to make your art. And you're like, I'm making my art now. Like this is my journey and this is my vision, and I'm not waiting for somebody to validate my ideas and my
Right.
you know and my crazy mind. And I really like I salute you for saying that and writing it and putting it out and transmitting that to others, because nobody is going to give it to you. Like
Exactly.
nobody's ever going to give it to you
Thank you, baby.
unless you're like,
yeah.
I'm not going to diss the Kardashians, but like, some people are born into extreme privilege.
Right.
But most of us aren't, and people don't just hand you things.
And we have to fight. We have to fight for what we want in this world. Like, it's crazy, you know? By the way, when we were talking about words that people would like describe, oh, crazy all the time for like being authentically me. Even now, like even a couple of days ago, like, oh, you're crazy. Why am I crazy?
Yeah.
Because I'm being true to myself. You know?
Yeah.
Like, I feel like,
Have people ever called you selfish?
oh, of course.
Yeah, that's a big one. That's, to me, that's the thing that I hear most and I see most when somebody is truly setting healthy boundaries, asking for, the time or money that they need or following their truth. I hear like, oh, that person's so selfish. Um, and it's like selfish is, there's so much negative connotation around the word selfish, and I really want to reframe that word too. Like, if you are not full with the essence of yourself, then you are constantly going to be making choices that are outside of yourself. You're going to be not in alignment. You're going to feel resentful. Like, it just doesn't make sense. We must be selfish. And I wanted to say, because I didn't get to say this with the pleasure activism stuff, like, and with all the stuff that we're talking about, selfishness, the idea isn't like, oh, like I'm going to take baths and it's all about me and like,
Right.
it's important. It's important to nourish yourself, absolutely. But the whole point is that we're all interconnected. And like, can we pay attention to when you're loaded up on pleasure and you're like, oh, I have enough of this now. How can I now give to my community? Like, even just being conscious of the resources that you have, and when you have more than enough, that's part of pleasure activism too. And then making that a pleasure, and then getting pleasure from that. And so it's this fucking, it's a whole,
Like the giving is the getting too.
the
Is something
giving
that
is the
I've been
getting. It's a whole
hearing a lot.
ecosystem. But you can't give until you're full. But then once you're full, pay attention to the fact that you're full and be like, okay, now it's time to give. And then you get pleasure from that. And then it's so sustainable. You're
I love
running
it.
on fuel that's sustainable.
It's an ecosystem.
It's an
100,
ecosystem.
100%. I love that so
Yeah.
much.
Yeah.
So yeah, so in your journey, I guess like having that struggle of like, the death and the rebirth and like the losing the loved ones and whatever, like what's been the thing, or like how have you navigated through that to listen to your inner voice and be like, because it's really hard, like obviously I've dealt with it too. That's why I started this show. Like, dealing with no one around you understanding what you're trying to do, but you understand it. And like, in the beginning, there's nothing to say. Like, you came here, you said, I'm going to sing, or I don't know what you did, and you could talk about that. But it's like, when you had that vision for yourself, there was nothing that anyone can see. Only your intuition saw it. Right. And, navigating that, like, that journey until you finally are somewhere where people could be like, okay, I see what they're doing, like, I think that part of the journey is obviously the hardest part, getting to a level where, like, obviously both of us have so much more that we're gonna do and give and whatever, but I think we're both at a place where it's like, okay, we see what's going on, but getting from like that, it's just a little seed that we're planting in our garden of our brains that no one sees but us, to okay, like, how did you navigate that?
How did I navigate that? That's such a good question. I think that if you don't know why you're doing something, like, your why has to be so strong. Like, your why, for me, like, that's how I navigated it, is that the why, like, my ego got involved. I can't tell you how many breakdowns I've had over the past 4 years, and still have, that are so ego and fear based, that are like, I gave up this and this, and like, the Saudi people don't get me, and here in America they don't get me, and what did I give this up all for? And then I come back to, like, why are you doing this? And then, like, and 5 years ago or 6 years ago, when I moved here, the only thing that sustained me was, why am I doing this? The reason that I am doing this is because I want to liberate myself from living in a place of self-negation and shame and fear. And I want to be free. I want to propel other people to begin on that path of freedom. That's my why. I want my mother to believe in magic. I want all, you know what I mean? And like,
Yes.
and so like,
I'm gonna cry.
yeah, like, girl,
100%.
cry. I come from a place where people don't believe in magic. They don't trust that this world is safe, that the earth is abundant, that God wants us to be joyful. And so like that's my why. And like that is what has carried me through everything. And like again, I don't want to say like I'm not some sage that's been going through this being like this is my why. No, but I always fucking come back to it.
That's real. I've never thought about my why, but what you said is absolutely my why. Like to 100,000,000%, the magic and the freedom and the potential of your brain being like, we're limitless, you know?
We're
And
limitless.
we really put like a lot of people, ourselves included, obviously, because we deal with this all the time, you know, like the barriers we put on ourselves in our brains, or like the ceilings we create for ourselves that are literally just figments of our imagination, you know? And like,
But it's the thing is that like it's not like we can't even take on all that responsibility, even though we are fully responsible for our lives. But it is capitalism that is continuously telling us that you are not pretty enough, you are not good enough, you are not worthy enough. You have to work for belonging and for food and for a roof over your head. Capitalism is constantly telling us your freedom, your power, your love, your beauty is something that you have to extract from outside. It's not within yourself. Don't think that. Patriarchy is constantly telling us this shit. So like we live in systems that are literally designed to disconnect us from spirit and our bodies.
have you heard of conscious capitalism?
No.
So
Like, go ahead.
what'd you say?
I've heard the phrase, never ever like looked at a definition of it.
I'm really into conscious capitalism, because, you know, at the end of the day, like I don't think we're going to get back to like a bartering system or like anything like that. I mean, in little ways, I think there are community things like that. But, you know, conscious capitalism basically is like, you know, being conscious of like, you know, how we're making things, you know, how we're importing and exporting, you know, the fair trade, labor, like Whole Foods, for example. The guy that created, the CEO of Whole Foods, is the one that wrote this book, Conscious Capitalism.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm a firm believer in it because it's like, you know, grocery stores are always going to exist, for example, right? In urban areas, you know, we can't all make our own food as much as I would love to. You know, my dream is absolutely to live off the grid and have a farm, you know, and it will happen for me 100%. I have faith, but, you know, and making sure like, hey, where are we shopping locally? Are there being fair wages given? Like things like that, you know? And then also just taking care of each other in this capitalist world, because also I feel like even you and I, like going after our dreams, like that's something that almost can only exist in capitalism, you know, in terms of like in other markets, like you can't be a singer and be like doing what we're doing, you know what I'm saying? So
I
I
know
feel
what
like
you're saying.
the narrative and we just need to have a shift of capitalism, and I feel like it is happening, you know. I want to be a part of that as well, in terms of just like making things more conscious and more sustainable, and you know, knowing where our money's going, who our money's going to, making sure, is the environment being taken care of, are people being taken care of? So yeah, there's being a shift. I think even with the patriarchy, like that's a slower shift, I feel. I mean, they're both slow shifts, but like
they're both so slow because it's not so much about like yes to everything you're saying. I think that we are like, and I'm not being a pessimist because I believe that things are shifting. I mean, I've just recently shifted to. I think that we are so deeply living from this place of scarcity and this feeling that there isn't enough for everybody, and that I have to go outside of me to be well. I have to earn my worth. I have to go outside of me to be loved, to be beautiful, to be free. And that to me, like no matter how conscious you get, like we need to start having conversations. We need to start treating each other in different ways. And maybe that book
that's
does
a part
talk
of it
about
too.
that.
Absolutely. Like
Amazing. Okay.
communication,
Amazing.
openness, you know,
Right.
vulnerability is a huge shift that I think that we're stepping into as human beings right now, especially with like, even I feel like social media, like in the since the pandemic, really, there's been so many more posts about mental health, about like, you know,
Which I love.
yeah, like
I
the
love
icebergs in
that.
us, all that. And, you know, talking about mental health disorders and everything. Like, and I feel like that's, you know, it's really important for us to speak about it because I think we all go through that, especially in a time like now. And absolutely.
Absolutely. Hell
So, and
yeah.
I feel like that's the like the matriarchal shift that I feel like society is slowly turning into. So
It's happening.
it's definitely happening. And it's
Yeah.
beautiful.
Rise of the divine feminine is happening.
Yes. I'm happy to be alive in this day and age.
Yeah.
Speaking of the divine feminine, how did you, so when you did Sin Again, which is an amazing video, everybody should go watch it after this.
Thank
Um,
you.
was that your concept, the lips on your tits?
So I just want to say that I shot that in my backyard during quarantine. Like I'm so proud of that. I made that with two of my dearest friends, Tayyib. His name is Muhammad Tayyib, and my friend Wissam. And Wissam, he's Tayyib is Palestinian and one of the most incredible artists, and Wissam is Egyptian, and so it meant a lot to me to be making it with men from my culture, embracing the divine feminine the way that they did. And Wissam was putting together a lookbook. I was telling him about all these different things. And we saw this, he showed me this photo shoot of, I don't know what this model's name is. I can't remember her name. She's a famous model. She's black, like gorgeous. And it's this photo, maybe you know it. It's this photo shoot of her in red boxing gloves, and she's topless and she's boxing. And in one of the photos, she has like tiny little lips on her nipples. And Sam showed it to me, and I was like, oh my God, we have to do this. And I was like, and it took me a lot. And then I ditched that idea because I was like, no, 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 it's too much. It's too much. And then I was like, why do I really want to do this? Why did that idea gravitate towards me? Like, so why was it such a pang? And it's because I believe that like part of pleasure activism and what I believe deeply and have known through my sexuality is that our bodies are speaking to us at every single moment. These bodies that we have are the only vessels that we have to communicate with divine, to feel our sensations, to feel our liberation. And we are constantly shutting it down and numbing it and taking pills and smoking weed and drinking our lives away instead of listening to it. And like a woman's breaths, like they're fucking scientists. They're amazing. And so I was like, let's put the lips on the tits because our bodies are speaking to us. And the feminine body is desperately calling out to the world and being like, this place is so imbalanced. Y'all need the feminine. So please listen.
Right. I love that. It's crazy that you mentioned that because I wrote down like some questions I wanted to ask you. You know, I mean, we pretty much covered it. It was just like, oh, let's see, you know. But one of the questions I wrote down is when did you first feel that connection between mind, body, and soul? So it's really
Yeah.
interesting that you mentioned that like connection of like listening to your body, you know?
Yeah. And it's a practice, and I really will say, like, I don't like this book, Pleasure Activism, I talk about it all the time because it really did change my life. Because
I'm definitely gonna read it.
until I understood how to embrace, okay, so Pleasure Activism, before you read that, read it, but also this book is based on a essay by Audre Lorde. Audre Lorde was like a queer black feminist, writer, activist, scholar, and she wrote an essay called Uses of the Erotic is Power. And I read this essay, and then I read Pleasure Activism, and I was like, oh, this is my new, not religion, but this is the thing that I'm going to study this so deeply for the next year. And that's the process that I'm in right now. Because what Audre Lorde says is that once you have experienced an erotic awakening fully in your body, once you have experienced that orgasmic feeling of, yes, I have arrived, I'm fully fucking satisfied. And a lot of times that starts with a sexual experience, but you can feel it in different ways. But once you've experienced that in your body, you can no longer settle for suffering or self-negation or even mediocrity. Because when you know that feeling, you start to look at all the different areas of your life and saying, why am I not this alive over here? Why am I not this alive with my partner? Why am I not this alive in my work? And like, that was like, it blew my mind to hear a scholar say your eroticism is vital, like it's necessary, it's a prayer, it's like service. And like that and pleasure activism is just like, it's changed my life. But I don't think that you can really fully understand how holy this whole experience is if you don't allow pleasure.
I love that so much. Yeah, I actually got nude body painted the other day.
Amazing.
Because yeah, I feel like I've always been very erotic. Like I don't remember a time like I've been a nudist since birth. Like, and it's not a joke. Like I just
Yeah.
like I feel like we all have bodies, and like there's no reason, like we're all just vessels. We're all souls living in bodies, and we all have bodies. There's no reason to like feel like, oh my God, you know?
Right.
I've always just been extremely comfortable in that regard. However, though, you know, I've always gotten comments about it too, and especially being a director, it's like, oh, you can't be sexy and be a director. Like, people aren't going to take you seriously, da 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 da. And, you know, so when I hit up my friend, John Bourne, who's amazing, and I did it on such an impulse, I was just like, yo, I want to get nude body painted. And he was like, what do you mean you want to get body painted? Like, you mean that you want to do something in a video? You want other people? And I'm like, no, I want you to paint me. And he was like, oh my God, of course, come through, you know? And like, I actually vlogged the whole experience. So I'm gonna make
Amazing.
a little YouTube about it. But you know, it was fucking incredible. And
Yeah.
he was like, your body's so refreshing to paint on,
Mm.
because I guess a lot of the girls he paints on have like fake tits, fake ass, whatever. And like, I just have a real body. And, you know, we came up with so many ideas and so many concepts we want to make together. And like, it just, I did it for myself because I didn't want to wake up at 40 years old and be like, damn, my body looked really good when I was in my 20s. Why didn't I do those things I wanted to do? You know, like fuck
Yeah.
society, fuck people telling me that I can't embrace
Yes.
my eroticism, my erotic nature that is so essential to who I am. Like, I can't even express to you how essential my eroticism is to me, but like not be able to make art.
Yeah.
What? My
Yeah.
eroticism is my art, you
Yes,
know?
exactly.
Like,
I'm so happy you did that. It's like I've had those thoughts as well of like I'm never gonna be this strong. My body is never gonna look like this. My muscles are never gonna look like this. Oh my God, I love my body so much. And then I went off to the desert and did a nude photo shoot. And I haven't even shared the
did a nude
photos.
photo
And
shoot?
I did a nude photo shoot and I haven't shared those photos because it was for me. And maybe one day I will share it. But like, just like I look at those photos, I'm like, ah. Like, you know, when you were saying like your erotic nature is who you are, and it's like, it's not even your erotic nature, like you are nature.
I love
You
you
know
so
what I
much.
mean?
Yes,
Like, you are nature.
1000%.
Like, we are just nature.
Exactly.
So,
Exactly.
yeah, man, I can't fucking wait to see that. That's beautiful.
Oh yeah, I'll send you some previews, you know.
I get a sneak peek.
Yes, I want to see your
Yay.
pictures too.
I will send you my nude
Yes,
photos.
100%.
I'll
So
send you
also
nudes.
one more thing too. You mentioned mushrooms.
Hmm.
So talk to me about that a little bit, because psychedelics for me too, like I tell everybody, psychedelics are like such a part of my journey to becoming my true self. So I
Yeah.
want to hear yours as well.
Yeah. And I have to go in 10 minutes, but we're
Perfect,
good.
let's do it.
Yeah, psychedelics. I mean, I like to call it plant medicine
Me too.
because it really is medicine. I will tell you and everyone that's listening that if it weren't for mushrooms, I did acid a bunch when I first started experimenting, and it was like, it was beautiful. But now I've just transitioned to just things that come from the earth. Just the older I get and the more spiritual I become, even though I think there's nothing wrong with LSD and things that are made chemically. But if it weren't for psychedelics and plant medicine, I really don't think that I would have been able to break out of all of the dogma. Like, I was so brainwashed growing up at school. I was so conditioned, like Saudi society and so many societies in the world are, they sew you up so tightly so that you're so convinced that every time you feel good, you're bad. And every time you fall, and so like if it wasn't, I remember the first time I did acid in the desert, I saw roots growing from my skin into the earth. And that's when I realized, like, I am nature. Like, I am the earth. The earth is me. I didn't come into this earth. Sorry, I didn't come into this place. I came from the earth. You know, like and so, and I felt God for the first time through acid in a way that wasn't based on fear. It wasn't God is this big thing that's up there. Like God is inside of me and
We are God,
everywhere.
yes.
We're and everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, so I just like I owe it so much, you know, the ability to understand that like carrying the women in my family's pain is not love. Like that also came through plant medicine, just all of these concepts that were just too tightly wound for me to just let go of in like sober life, because what I think plant medicine does is that you're just moving through like it's just a body. You're just like, but it's all body and spirit. You can't think your way out of anything. The feeling's there and it's big and it's loud and you're gonna have to deal with it. You know?
Yeah, 100%. Someone said, every time I laugh comfortably in my skin, I hear my family behind me telling me to behave, and I wonder why. Bold,
Hmm.
confident women are considered a threat, and that's the issue. Yeah, I think we always have to behave truly to ourselves. The best way to behave is to behave in what feels natural to us, you know? Um, and
Yeah.
so keep on laughing, baby girl. Keep on laughing
Yeah. Yeah.
is my advice to you.
If what you're doing is truly not harm, like if you are causing no harm, which is you're absolutely not, you have to do you. And doing you will give other people the space. It'll trigger them. It'll make them angry. It'll make them upset. But then that's going to lead them down a conversation that they've never had with themselves. Being like, why am I pissed? Why does she fucking get to laugh and I don't get to laugh? Whatever that conversation is, you're waking them up. So keep laughing for
So I
sure.
love that you plugged the name of the show just now. Do you?
Do
Exactly.
you, boo?
Yes. So on that note, what you just said, and we'll wrap up, but have you inspired others in your community to like dig deeper into themselves?
I I have like my like Arab humbleness is like no, no. Um, yes. I can't tell you how many DMs I get from people that I mean I have friends obviously that tell me all the time that I've inspired them, but my DMs are filled with queer kids that are just so grateful to see my journey, and it makes them feel less alone. Not even just queer, a lot of queer kids, like boys and girls, but also just a lot of girls that are really struggling to embrace their sexuality and understand it as holy. And like that's the why. And I'm constantly trying to remember to like focus on those moments as much as I focus on the things that like I'm not getting this or this isn't happening. Like the why is here. It's happening.
Exactly. And then what is one thing you would tell your younger self, you think?
Oh my God. What is meant for you like can never escape you. Like what is meant for you, you don't like don't don't dizzy yourself. Like I got so wrapped up being like, like I have to catch it. It's like you don't have to catch it. It's in you.
It's
What
coming.
is
It's here.
it's in you.
Yeah, it's already there, baby.
It's already there.
I love
So just
that.
breathe. Yeah.
Amazing. So amazing chatting with you. You're such a beautiful human. And
You
I'm so happy to
too.
have had you here.
I
You
can't wait for our
mentioned,
music video.
I know. You mentioned yesterday, like starting with you singing and doing an Arabic prayer. Do you want to end with that?
Right. Yes, 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 yes. Let's do that. Let's do that. Okay.
Perfect.
So you can just close your eyes. Everybody listening can close their eyes too. And just notice that whatever surface you are sitting on is supporting you. And take a deep breath in from your belly. And exhale. Now you can keep your eyes closed if you like. الحلوة قامت تعجن في البدرية والديك بيتم كوكو كوكو في الفجرية يلا بينا على باب الله يا صنايعية اجعل صباحك صباح الخير يا استعطية. And whenever you're ready, open your eyes.
Wow. Beautiful.
Yay.
What was the prayer?
It's literally just a song saying that this girl is rising with the sun in Lebanon. She's putting her hands on the earth. The rooster is like cuckooing. It's just, to me, that's a prayer because it's just like life is happening. And that's enough if you can just like be present to it. Oh, it's the end is saying like come with it. When she puts her hands on the earth, it's like come with us to the doors of God, which, you know, that's what the earth is.
I love it so much.
Yeah.
So incredible.
Yeah.
Thank you for blessing the show, giving the energy to the show. You made it alive.
I love you, darling. Thank you for doing you, boo.
Yes, you too, beautiful. Mwah. Keep on inspiring.
Bye, حبيبتي.